All right. This is the second installment of I think we're calling it the Lima Charlie podcast. I think somebody in it was either the Air Force or the Army had a Lima Charlie, but the last time that they posted was like, I don't know, 4 years ago. So I'm stealing it. It's ours now.
Nice.
So yeah,
Play acquire.
yeah, exactly. That's what it is. So you want to give us a little intro to yourself, who you are, what your job was, then, now, whatever you want to talk about for
Yeah.
yourself.
So, my name's Andrew. I was in the Marine Corps for 8 years. I did a lot of various things while I was in. I have 3 deployments under my belt, and then since being out, I've transitioned into law enforcement. It's been, I guess I would say, a long road since being out, but it has been very fruitful in like all the information that I've like learned and compiled. In that process of me becoming an officer, I've also started Northern Warriors Foundation. It's based out of Minnesota, but we've helped veterans from every state. I actually have a vet in every state in the United States that I've helped. So
That's
we
awesome.
offer services all across the United States because, luckily with technology, I can make that happen. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of information that I'm happy to hopefully be able to get out there to the world and help the veterans out and
Yeah.
kind of give them a little bit of a guiding path, either in their transition or even vets that have been out for 10, 20, 30 years. I've helped Vietnam vets too. So I think it's
Oh,
very awesome that, veterans are starting to talk more about these things because I think it's very important that we do that.
100%. Yeah. And, that was something I obviously wanted to do with this podcast / interview. I was just kind of get it to be to where it's kind of like with the suicide thing. The more we talk about it, the more we bring it to light, and the more people are okay with reaching out when they need that help, the better it is for everybody. So I personally believe it's kind of the same thing here, where like the more we talk about, hey, if you don't have your disability, like you should probably go get it. And dealing with those disabilities day in and day out is pretty rough. It can be very taxing on you mentally, and that can also drain it can add to that stress and depression. So I totally agree with you. It's good to talk about it. So
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of unreported issues that won't ever get reported because it starts with like you, the veteran, having to be self-aware that like something isn't right and finding ways to navigate like that is the hardest part for vets because we're all way too stubborn with pride and it's just installed into us no matter what branch you were in, no matter what you did in the military. All of us get out and we deal with the first thing that they diagnose you with is adjustment disorder, but that can compile so many different things as to what you're adjusting to. And I
and
think
what the
that,
actual cause is.
yeah, absolutely. I believe the most prideful entity and career, in my opinion, in the entire United States. And then you get out into this world where, when you're in, the grass is always greener on the other side. But
Yeah.
when you first get out, you realize like the grass isn't much greener, if any green at all. And then you kind of have to start figuring out like, how do I make it greener? And that right there is the main problem is sometimes we don't know how to, you know?
You don't have any clue about how to go about it. I know I struggle with that. I struggle with, and sometimes still, what's my purpose? Where am I going in life? It's almost like being in jail, because everyone says, when do you get out?
Yep.
Like it's jail time. And you think the grass is greener outside because everyone else has had this entire time that you've been in to build something, and you only see the end result. You don't realize that, yeah, you get out and the grass might be greener, but it's going to take 6 years to do that, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work on yourself. It's a lot of work building relationships and rapport out in the civilian world and with jobs and all that shit. It's a lot. And the grass is not greener. It's just whatever you build, whatever you make out of it.
Yeah. I think on the other end though, too, is that the grass can 100% be greener. It's hard to see it when you first get out because when you first get out, you're leaving, you know, the men and women you served with behind, and you get out, and every friendship you make doesn't kind of hit that spot like it did when you had the friends when you're in, because those guys truly understood you, and those women truly understood you while you're in. And so when you get out, sometimes when you're meeting new people, you can be friendly with them, but you almost feel like acquaintances. Like it's never really like a friendship, and you have to like learn how to like adapt to these new styles of friendships and new styles of people you meet, because they don't truly understand you unless they've, you know, walked a similar path. And that's a hard thing that I think vets, you know, struggle with. I've struggled with it, and anyone who has told you that they don't struggle with it or haven't struggled with it has to be lying, because I have a lot of experience in my last 4 years with working with vets, and it across the board has been something that I constantly see.
Yeah. Yeah. And disclaimer, we served together. This is for the audience. We served together, and we went on deployment together to on the 11th MEU. So we've got kind of a pretty good rapport on that front. You know, we were really good buddies when we were in.
Absolutely.
We had a great time on deployment together. And, you know, we've kind of, like, we still stay in touch every once in a while, but it's just not the same, you know, with you being so far away. You're in a different time zone, as I learned today.
Yep.
So it's crazy, you know, like, and the bond that we have, I know we talk about it, veterans talk about it all the time, that bond is undescribable. You know, you can't put it into words. Like, your family, you would die for each other. You know, there's not a chance I wouldn't take to die for one of my buddies from the military.
Absolutely.
So it's a whole different world out here. You know, I got some good buddies, and I've been very fortunate with a lot of my buddies that I hang out with were in the military. So they kind of, you know, we can kind of figure out a pretty close relationship there because they relate so much, you know. So I'm very fortunate for that. So let's talk about, if you want to plug yourself real quick with your
nonprofit.
What do you call it? Yeah, your nonprofit.
Yep.
If you want to give us a rundown on what you do, what you've done, the options that veterans do have through your nonprofit.
Okay. Yeah. So structurally, I guess I never expected it to be this way. I have a buddy of mine who was struggling after the military, and I like to consider myself like a man of my word. And while you're in, you kind of, you know, smoke pit drinking, and you're hanging out, and, you know, you're always giving each other well, if you ever need anything, you let me know, blah, blah. When we get out, you know, that's what we're here for. But you say it loosely while you're in, because, you know, the substance to it is, you know, it's there if it had to be there, but you don't ever expect that call to happen. And then when you get out, I had a friend pretty recently, right after I had gotten out, and I was still trying to figure out the world. He called me at, you know, about 3:00 in the morning. And there's two phone calls you get at 3:00 in the morning from a vet. You get one where they've been drinking, and they're like, "I miss you, bro. I love you, bro. And, you know, how you doing?" and that kind of stuff. And they're having a grand old time. Or you get the unfortunate nature that I hope, you know, nobody ever has to go through, but I feel like we go through it more frequently than we should,
100%.
is the opposite one. And this one was a video call. He called me, and, you know, and he's fine with me talking about the story. We've talked about it before, because I think it can resonate with a lot of veterans.
Yeah.
He called me on a video call, and he had a gun, and he was not obviously of the right state of mind. And he was like, "I can't do it anymore, man. I can't." Well, time zones, like we're talking about it. He was in Oregon. I was in Minnesota. And what do you do? So I had to play my cards right, because I'm like, "Hey, man, like, you can do that. Like, I can't stop you. I could call in a welfare check. There's things I could do, but I can't just get in my vehicle and go drive on over there."
Yeah. By the time I get there, it's going to be tomorrow at least.
Yeah. And so when he called, I had like a moment where I'm like, I got to figure something out. And so I said, "Hey, why don't we do this?" I said, "Why don't you, if you feel you want to do this, I'm not going to be able to stop you, but why don't you think this through? You come to Minnesota, you come hang out with some of the guys that we had served with. And if you truly feel that way after that trip, like, I'll let you leave. Let's get you a round trip ticket. Kind of like had nothing to his name. Couple pairs of jeans, couple of shirts, couple sweatshirts. Moving to Minnesota is a pretty big ask for him because, it's a whole new life. He has nothing here. He came out on the second weekend of February, came out on a Thursday, and I called up some of the guys that I hang out with that are also vets that are from my time in the service and vets that I knew I'd joined throughout my like high school days and stuff like that. I reached out to him and I said, hey, I got a buddy that's kind of going through this. Some of the guys that I'm, that are in Minnesota know him as well. I said, he's dealing with this. So like, let's go out ice fishing. Let's bring him out. Let's put that at ease. Let's just hang out, with the guys. Well,
Good time, chill.
We had a great time. We caught some fish. We caught up. We told some, good old stories from the Corps. And then Sunday came and I'm like, all right, well, what's the plan? What do you want to do? And he's like, if I go home, that's it for me. And I said, well, then let's not. I talked to the wife prior to him coming over to here and I said, hey, I got a spot for you at my house. I'd like you to move in. We'll worry about the semantics. We'll worry about all that. Let's get you moved in. And at the time I was an operation manager at like a company. And so I had a job for him that Monday, got him in, got him back onto his feet, got his dog moved over here, everything. Well, then we realized sometimes all we need is a community. And I think a community is huge for veterans. I think, in like your case, you said a lot of people, when they get out, they go back to their hometown, and some people aren't fortunate enough to have a veteran community or like people that they can resonate with. I think a lot of vets predominantly hang out with like law enforcement, firefighters, people that have kind of dark humor and have like high stress environments, because I feel like that's where we, violence through chaos, and we build all this rapport through people that like have like-minded thoughts. Well, kind of going tenfold on it, he started at this company, and operations that I was doing at the time was being able to help people, moving. It was a moving company through Allied. And so we took that and we basically got him to get his owner operator. Well, now, the last 2 years he's made, $300,000-$400,000 as his own owner operator, started his own business, has been able to see, the bright side of the tunnel. He's in a dark place, but now since then we've been able to kind of tell his story. And so now every year on the second weekend of February, we do an honorary Northern Warriors Foundation ice fishing trip. What that has done for us is now we have grown to, it was just a couple of buddies. In the last 2 years, we've done around 30 to 20 vets, roughly around each time, where we bring out vets, we teach them how to ice fish, we get them out there, even if they know how to ice fish, we get them out and we recreate camaraderie. Because sometimes the one thing we don't miss about the military is the clown show, but we miss the clowns. So we recreate that camaraderie, and now we're starting to grow into more camping trips and eventually hunting trips where we get vets out and we get them all in the outdoors, being able to kind of be one at peace with like their thoughts, but then being put them around in a position where we are open with them to like create a safe space and say, hey, this is what has happened with us. Like, this is a safe space. We're not, you don't need to say anything. You don't need to do anything, but you're welcome here. You are safe to do and say as you please. Like that's what we have created.
And that's huge.
We've cut out egos. We've cut out the vet bro mentality. People like that have came on our trips. We've asked them politely, like, to leave or, to either fix it before like we get to the point where we have to ask them to leave, because really unpopular opinion sometimes, but I'll say it, is I think veterans create more of the 22 than society does, because sometimes veterans are so caught up in an ego or an inferiority complex because they feel like they haven't done enough because somebody else has done more. And so I think that goes full circle, is when a vet reaches out and they say, hey, I'm doing this, blah, blah, or I'm not feeling okay. And they're like, oh, nice. Well, like, let's talk about it. And like, oh, have you deployed? They're like, no, I haven't. And they're like, oh, so you didn't really serve. And then that vet who reaches out to the person that like needed that opportunity to like talk to his own people, then his own people push him away, and that could have been his like last chance of trying to reach out.
And most of the time it is.
And that's where I have structured to stay away from all the toxicity of like what veterans have, issues with. And I think it's an issue too that the inferiority complex is created from the military, because from the second you get in, you're chasing a ribbon. From the
It's
second
always all about what's on your collar, what's on your chest,
what you've done, where you've been. It's never about like you find a dotted line that less than 1% of the population is. And I think we get so far past that instead of realizing like, a vet that serves in his first 4 years, who's the one to say that he or she chose that they get to go on deployment? We all know if you've been in like your first 4 years, you're getting assigned to a unit, whether that unit deploys or doesn't deploy, it's not their fault.
luck of the draw.
Luck of the draw. And, at the end of the day, like deployment isn't what makes you a veteran. You signing that dotted line and serving your time is what makes you a veteran,
Regardless of job, regardless of gender, that's what it's about. You signed up, you did the 4 years or whatever, sometimes the Army has smaller contracts or larger contracts. You did your contract and you did your job, and regardless of how much you did, because I struggled with that a ton when I first got out, not feeling like I did enough, not feeling like I fought hard enough, not feeling like I, did a good enough job at my job, like I felt so, it was almost like survivor's guilt, but like, cause at points I was I felt guilty that I didn't like go to war and die, especially in the Marine Corps, like death and like go out there and do something is our whole like mentality. So
yeah,
I know a lot of Marines struggle with that.
Well, I think society doesn't help with that either, because the first thing people societally will ask is, did you kill someone?
Yep. That is the first question.
That across the board is just everybody expects and sees military, and they see death and all these negative things, and they're like, we're so sorry that you had to go through that. And sometimes when a vet hasn't went through that, and people expect that out of them, they immediately are in an inferiority complex. Like, this person doesn't look at me as a veteran if I hadn't had done these things. And so we have created that safe space where no matter what you have or haven't done, like it's open for all. And so since then now, I was struggling when I first got out to get like my benefits figured out. I fell into the big pride categories that I kind of give veterans a lot of crap about now. Is I don't want to put in my claim because I don't want to take it away from someone else. That is not how the VA works. The VA is work predominantly per each veteran to get their own benefits.
They are set aside per veteran, regardless if you use it or not. It's yours. It's your money, and you need it now. Like
my ability to get 100% doesn't take away from somebody else's ability to. They don't have like a set in stone. And so I had to get through my own pride to realize that is the first lie we all get told in the military. I don't know where it comes from. The second big lie is that like, just because other like people have done more than you doesn't mean that you don't rate something in it, So I started messing up my VA claim. I was playing around on it. I got out during COVID time. I was the caretaker of my family while I was in the military. So I was going to do everything in my power to make sure I was a caretaker of my family getting out. Well, getting out during that time, it was very little jobs available. The whole world was on fire. COVID was, everybody's indoors. You don't get to talk to anybody. You don't get to be socially around people, which is not a good place for a veteran to get out into, because as much as we don't want to go out in public and some, social anxieties and hypervigilance, and you start dealing with these things, being trapped when you get out of the military was very, very miserable. And I know a lot of vets had dealt with it too.
Yeah.
So I started playing around, and, I got 50%, and then I got 70%, and then I'm playing around, and I was going trial and error until I was able to figure it out and work through a claim myself. And then I figured out what didn't work and what did work. And so then when my buddies were struggling with it, I was like, hey, if you want, I don't mind helping you. And so I would start helping them with theirs, because a big entity I was realizing when I got out, and I don't think it's a failure of these entities for doing what they're doing, is there's a lot of law companies, when you get out, they preface their business on, you let us put in your claim. You don't have to pay us anything unless we win, then you pay a portion of your back pay. And to me, that sounds great, right? If somebody were to come up to you and say, hey, you give me $10,000 and I'll make you $4,000 a month for the rest of your life, and your family gets all these benefits, I'd be like, sweet, here's 30.
Pretty good deal.
Here's 30,000. Can I triple that? Like,
Yeah.
it's a great deal. And to be honest, it's not their fault for monetizing a failure of the government, because at the end of the day, the only one that had created that space for veterans or for law companies to be able to monetize off veteran benefits is the government. Because when you get out, you go to a TRS, and some people don't even get that, right? Transition readiness seminar. And what does that 1 week course teach you? Go to college, go to college, go to college, go to college. They don't teach you, they have this benefits, they have these certifications. This is how you do your resume. This is how you make the time while you're in translate to a civilian resume. And so you struggle with finding jobs, you struggle with finding your niche, you struggle with finding like your pride again. And all these things that I was dealing with when I got out, I didn't have a me for me at the time. So when I started to get better and better at it, I'd help my friends out. Then my friends were like, oh, dude, hey, do you mind help my other buddy out? And so eventually, about 6 months to a year into it, I was like, this is something bigger than me now. And so I kind of give a joke of what Northern Warriors Foundation is. And there's myself and then the VP of Northern Warriors Foundation, Chevrolet Arrow. I was in the Marine Corps with him as well. We kind of give the joke because everyone's like, what you're doing is very selfless. But to me, it's very selfish, because I was able to find my pride again through this. Like, when I get to live vicariously through watching another veteran get their benefits and see the light at the end of the tunnel, there is no amount of money you could pay me for that feeling that you get to be able to like live vicariously through seeing someone else see the light. Because I didn't see the light. And when I finally saw the light, 4 years later, I've seen.
You get to feel that every time.
Every single time. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I get the selflessness of it, because we will never charge a vet a single cent. I don't take any, oh, let me buy you a whiskey bottle, let me buy you something, you really help my family. I do not take a single cent of that. The only thing I get to take is a little bit of my own pride back, because I'm like, I just got to help, a fellow brother or sister in the service see that light too. And so we've grown, and now in the last 4 years, I've done about 600 claims. Out of the 600 claims, I've done 223 to 100% disabled. I've done a little over 300 right now to 70% or higher. And then I've done, the remaining are either pending their percentages or have gotten like around a 50 to 60%, pending a higher one. The services we provide can be everything from state and federal benefits per each state. Like I said earlier, we've done a vet in every state in the United States. So we're pretty well researched on all the state and federal benefits. Another thing that we help with is resumes, because sometimes all the stuff that you've done in the military is hard to write on a piece of paper in a civilian term. And I've realized that people don't realize when they write a resume, they're like, oh, well, I did comm, for example. They're like, oh, in your case, like communications. I look at it and they're like, I don't know what it means. Well, anytime you pick up NCO, I'm writing management skills, leadership skills. You're writing things down that to a civilian world, they're going to look at, and you can translate to them in military terms, but using civilian words. Yeah. And so that's huge on a resume, because we've been able to help veterans get jobs. We've helped with homelessness. We've helped with addiction services. Medical is a big one, because like a lot of vets don't realize, when you get, the 70%, you can start looking into Champier. When you're at 100%, your family and kid, like wife and kids, spouse and kids, can get free medical as well too. 100%. We also help them with, if family members pass away and they have 100%, we help the spouse be able to retain the, portion of the disability benefits that go to the family. We also help with funeral questions. Basically, the way I put it is we're a one-stop shop for veteran benefits.
That's awesome.
You come with a question, and we've worked with a ton of other nonprofits. So, a recent story, we had a Vietnam vet that I was helping him with his claim, and he was not able to pay for his vehicle. And so we worked with another nonprofit that helps with buying vets vehicles or repairing them. We got his whole entire vehicle covered and repaired. So he didn't have to, have that weight on his shoulder as he was just trying to figure out life again. Because it doesn't matter if you just got out, and it doesn't matter if you're a Vietnam veteran. You're going to have spurts of weakness. We all are,
100%.
It's absolutely normal. But I think that veterans get so tied up in the pride that they think that they can't ask for help. When you finally see the vet that does ask for help, which I think is one of the strongest things a veteran can do, I think that we have changed over the years to start kind of pushing it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to lean on each other. Because even if
I'd rather somebody be
lowest,
weak in their eyes. I think it's strong to speak out, but I'd rather you be weak in your own eyes than be dead. I'd rather that.
And you said to yourself too, I think that vets don't realize if you reach out to me, you are giving me purpose again.
Yeah.
It helps. I could be at my lowest, and in the real world, it's, you got to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. In the veteran world, sometimes you asking me for help makes me motivated to want to help myself so I can help you.
Exactly.
And it provides a purpose that I feel like we often lose getting out.
Yeah.
And so Northern Warriors Foundation as a whole has just been growing drastically. So Chevrolet is my partner in this, and he's been the outdoorsman guy. He's like, I want to take vets out here and I want to do this. And so I help him plan all that. And then I handle all the financial sides, the VA disability claims, the state and federal claims, VA housing, we help with, home loans, all that. But every service that we offer does not cost a single thing to a veteran. It will never cost a single thing to a veteran. And we're now starting to adapt to be able to have him help out with the VA disability side. So we're going to be able to take on, 2 times the workload of veterans. So it's kind of growing. I mean, just since this year, I've done, as of yesterday, 31 claims. And, it's more than I've typically done. But sometimes when the going gets tough, you just got to push right through it. And I look at it at the end of the day, if a few hours of my free time can give a veteran the next 40 years of their life hope and happiness, who am I to, take that from them? So I'm very, very big on, I try to get as many veterans done as I can and still be able to, concentrate on my work, concentrate on my family. I've been really good at kind of working out the time management of it because I think it's important. I think that if I wasn't doing this, I would have been struggling to find my purpose, and everyone
guarantee you would be.
Absolutely. In the law enforcement perspective of it, there's a lot of purpose I find in that, and there's a lot of, I think, similarities because I get to help people in an everyday job. But something about helping veterans hits a spot that
it's a little different. Yeah.
I can't put a specific word to it, but it has been very healing for me because when I got out, I was gaining weight. I was stressed out. I was drinking. I felt like I wasn't the Andrew I was in the military.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to get back to that. In the military, I was motivated. I was working out. I was, drinking.
Yeah, dude, we were in pretty good shape.
I was drinking, but it was culturally drinking. And then when you get out, drinking isn't cultural. It's called alcoholism. And you didn't know that was a word.
And you have a problem.
Yeah. You get out, and when all your buddies are way too intoxicated and you're barely hitting a buzz, and you're like, you're a lightweight, and they're like, you're an alcoholic. And you're like, I've never heard that word before.
What's that word?
Like, I've only heard culture.
Yeah.
But I think that it's important, and the more and more we've handled it and the more workload we're taking on, I would consider myself an expert when it comes to VA claims. I I think my whole professional repertoire of claims right now looks really good, and it can
Yeah.
show veterans like they're comfortable and confident, but also it's as a veteran helping out other veterans. I don't work as a VA entity. I don't work as, anything other than I'm a vet helping another vet. So there doesn't have to be strings attached. And I think that vets are always so concerned that they need to have medical. They need to have medical. They need to have medical documentation. That's another falsified thing. Yes, medical documentation helps. 100%. It's going to make it easier because it's going to be able to point the finger and say, this is service connected. But the way I will write a claim out for you is, at the end of the day, you have to have a doctor that says it's either more than likely or less than likely caused by the service. And you say you're a grunt, right? You've been out for a year and you have bad knees, bad back, and bad shoulders. Well, when we put in your claim, and I put it as a bullet point of constant ruck runs and hikes, full combat load, wearing full combat load on your deployments, and, doing PT with all different types of things, cast-back drills, something as simple as MCMAP, or in the Army side of it, like Army combatives. Like, there's so many things that can compile issues on your body, because when you're 24 years old and you've had surgeries and, radiculopathy and nerve damage, like, that's not typical. But veterans, when they get out, they're so used to living with that pain that to them, it's like, it's no big deal. But it is.
It seems normal. And then you're like, oh, that's not normal.
Absolutely. And I'm a big advocate for that. I'm a big advocate for vets trying to break the norm, because I think the norm is when you get out, it's, I have to have this, I have to have done this, I have to have medical. All these things are the norm when you get out. And I like to break the norm. I like to say, like, just because you don't think that you can doesn't mean that you can. Like, let's sit down, let's work through this together.
The way I see it is, I always tell veterans, okay, you don't think you have enough medical, or you don't think you have enough weight to your claim to get any disability. My question is always, why not just try?
Yeah.
Like, even if you only get 30 or 40%, at least you got something on the books.
Yeah. I always say you're sitting at the state of no. And people are like, what do you mean? I'm like, because right now you're at zero, you're at nothing. And if you put in something and you get nothing, nothing changes. This is the only government entity. The VA is the only catch-all where there is no negative and it can be all positive. The problem is that time and time again, everyone has said the VA is horrendous. The VA is horrible. The VA is this. No, the inability in the uneducated veteran not knowing how to use the VA is what's horrible, because the VA as a whole is actually phenomenal. I've had 8 surgeries there, 9 total. I had 1 in the military. I've had 8 surgeries since being out, and then they handled my cancer treatment. The VA did great on every aspect of that. There was no hiccups. They did a great job, and I understand that that's not everybody's story, but I think a lot of it falls back on veterans don't know how to use the VA. You can go to your own primary care and have the VA pay for it. You can go to an emergency.
That's what I do.
Isn't VA. Have them pay for it. They have a 48-hour and a 72-hour line. They have emergency lines. Like, you could get your dental paid for. An astronomical amount of benefits out there, and veterans not knowing how to do it translates to the VA sucks. No, your branch of service, your leaders who probably also don't understand the benefits, have failed you. And that's okay, because your leadership also probably doesn't know the benefits. And so how are they supposed to prep you if they don't know? Because they're still currently in, and they're still living in the realm of, what if when they get out. I'm the answer to the what if, is what I like to say, because when you get out and you need to know what's the next step, I can help navigate that. I can help navigate you're interested in a different career. I can help You get into the school or the classes or the certifications to get to that. But all it starts with is the veteran saying, like, I need help because I didn't do this on my own. And nor should I think any veteran ever should do this on our own at all, because as a whole, there's a thing that we gain from the military, and it's a brotherhood and sisterhood. So why not use it to your advantage?
You might as well.
Absolutely. All it took was my friend to have one phone call, say, I can't do this
Snowballed
anymore.
into this awesomeness.
Boom. Now he's here. He has a life. He's living. He's making good money. He's had a girlfriend. Like he's seen what life can look like on the other end of asking for help. And I can tell you time after time again, he would sit here right now and he would tell you the best decision he has ever made is ask for help, because it's the best decision I've ever made. And I can tell you, any veteran, whoever does ask for help, it'll be the best thing that they've ever done too.
Hands down, the best thing I ever did was get help and
Absolutely.
get seen. Get help. Step one, get your disability. I mean, that was a life change. I got 100%. That was life changing for me. Like having that income obviously I got to deal with this raggedy ass body, but that income takes so much of the weight off of worrying about monetary problems. Because, when I first got out, you first get out, you don't have a job. 9 times out of 10, yeah, some guys get out and they go straight into a job, they get a hookup. But even then, who wouldn't benefit from having a couple extra bucks in their pocket?
Absolutely.
And then having the VA to be able to do, I had probably a year until I got mental health. And that year was rough. And as soon as I got that mental health through the VA, and I will say, I've had some long waits at the VA, and I've had some nurses drop some balls. But once you figure out how to navigate that portion of it, it's really not too bad VA wise. But the mental health, dude, it was the next day that I got out of the hospital from the psych hold. The next day I had a talk with a therapist. They were on top of their shit. They did a really good job. And that has been such a tremendous help, having that, support from the VA there. Yeah. If anybody needs any help, hit him up. We'll put the link to his stuff in the description. Tell me about your getting out, right? So what are things that you've struggled with disability wise? Talk about your cancer and that treatment. And then, anything that you feel like kind of relates to what we're talking about, situations you've been in where you've seen stuff like, people looking down on you because of your disability, because it's not so prevalent. And because you've seen both sides, you had cancer, which nobody's going to tell you, you're being a bitch,
Yeah, exactly.
And then, you've also had knee pains and shoulder pains and stuff that's a little bit less noticeable on the surface. So let's hear about those experiences.
Yeah. So I guess when, I'd first gotten out, even just, I think when you get past the culture shock of like, I'm not on leave, like I'm out, like when you first get out, everything is sunshine and rainbows. You're like, this is awesome. Like I don't have to do PT. I don't have anyone telling me what to do.
I've got to shave.
I'm a free bird. And then eventually a few weeks later, you're like, I don't want to be a free bird anymore. I don't know what to do. Like I lost the structure in my life. And immediately I could see that was weighing on me. I could see that it was altering the way I looked, the way I slept, the way I acted. I was so quick to be angry, so quick to be frustrated, and just in a constant state of stress. I didn't like who I was, and I didn't know how to not be him anymore.
Yeah.
And so I didn't go get the help right away. I did what I think a lot of vets do, is we push it down internally and we're like, eventually something's going to click. Eventually it'll get better.
I'll figure it out. Yeah.
Or it'll buff, and so I realized it didn't. And, and I think when I had my first surgery, I had my first, like a few months out, I had my right shoulder surgery get done. Come to find out, like this whole time, I've had a torn rotator cuff, torn labrum, basically all the muscular tendons in my shoulder. If you were to just cut the skin around, you could have just pulled that bad boy off.
Oh,
And I was just living with that. And they were like, this has been going on for a long time. And so I went and did it, and it was, a 10, 11-month recovery time. And I'm right-handed. And so when I'm first doing this, like, I had to learn how to like live my life with my left hand. And it was hard. And then I'm a guy where it's like, I'm trying to figure out the world, and then I can't even go into the world. I had to sit on a couch and recover and just be away from people. And when people would call, I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to be anything. And it was a very dark spot for me to get in. And then I was going to the VA for one of my like checkups one time for like my shoulder. I just had a moment there of where I was just like, everything kind of came over me, and I'm just sitting there talking to the doctor, and I'm like, I'm not happy. And obviously at the time I'm cussing up a little bit of storm. Like I'm effing over it. Like I'm done with this. Like I am not happy, and I don't know how to be happy. And it was a very hard thing on my wife because, it's for her, you're going to be like, she's like, what can I do better? And what do you need from me? And the thing is like, to her, it probably sounded like, I don't need anything from you. You're doing great.
No.
It's not you, it's me. And she's like, no, like, and that's where I felt like I'm putting a lot on her, and I'm putting a lot on our marriage because of this. So like, I need to figure something out, because I need her to know it's not her. It is me.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it's me. I don't know the answers. I don't even know
That's the fun part.
I don't know the questions even as to why, like to what to ask. I knew something wasn't right. And so I started pursuing it. I was working with the VA, and I kind of, was having a hard time navigating it. There's just some of the stuff at the VA where it wasn't resonating with me well. I didn't know how to use the VA at the time. I didn't know how to use the medical side. I just would go to where they would tell me to go, and they give you a big packet of like stuff to fill out, and in the ooey gooey feeling packet. And I almost felt like I was doing homework, and then having to go to an appointment and then talk about what I wrote down. And I'm like, what happened to where I could just sit down and talk to people? And so then I went to a group called Coffee Talk, and it was a bunch of Vietnam vets that would just drink coffee.
That's awesome.
And just talk.
Yeah.
And I got told by another friend of mine, like, hey, you should just go into this. And I'm like, dude, immediate inferiority complex.
I bet.
What do I have to sit in here and tell these guys that I have problems when these guys are Vietnam vets and have been through the trenches of hell and back? And I went in there, and I was so closed off. So one of the vets, immediately as I'm there, he's like, how's it going, young buck? And I'm like, oh, I'm all right. And then talking with him, he's like, what's going on? I'm like, what'd you do? And I was like, I did this and blah, blah, blah. And this is what I did in the military. And they're like, that's awesome. Thank you for your service. And I'm just kind of like, me, like, what about you?
Who am I?
It's like, your service is just as important as my service. And I was just like, really? Like,
that's awesome.
I didn't think of it that way. I was like, you guys came home and people are spitting on you and calling you names, and nobody gave two damns about your service. I come home and people are so grateful and thankful, and you're getting a free drink here, free food there. Like, you felt welcomed. And they came home to, hell round 2. Yeah. They come home and had to see the war constant over and over and over again, and on all these things that are going to have traumas for the rest of their life. And they come home to people that disrespect that and don't put their service into any, threshold of thanks. And then I come home and I have the total opposite. So when I'm around a Vietnam vet, I'm like, thank you for your service. They're like, no, thank you for yours. Like, thank you for carrying the torch.
Yeah.
And passing it along. And I'm just like, kind of had a downy moment, and I kept going to that. And I started realizing, like, what works for one veteran isn't going to work for every veteran. And so
That's true.
I started realizing like what was working for me was phenomenal. But then it also started to make me think like, I gotta continue this, or I gotta figure out ways to like help me more, because I liked that feeling I was around vets. So I started reaching out to my veteran buddies, or, the same thing I feel like a lot of vets deal with. When you first meet somebody out in town and they're like, oh yeah, I'm a vet. Like there's an immediate sense of like that brother and sister that clicks in, and you're just like, oh, that's awesome, dude. What branch? Where you do? Like, where did you go? What did you do? And then you already have a sense of familiarity with this person that you've never met. And then you're like, what are you struggling with? And it's like back to the jail thing, where they joke about the VA, like, oh, what are you in for?
Yeah.
Well, you realize like when you talk to another vet, like, what are you struggling with? They may not open up to anybody, but the first second another vet asks them, they're like, oh, I've been having a hard time with the VA. I've been having a hard time with this. And then I was like, damn, like I am too.
Yeah.
I'm not alone. I'm like, have you seen what worked for you? Yeah, there was this and that worked. I'm like, well, I did this and that worked for me. And so I kind of started to like build the community right there before I ever knew what it was going to turn into. Unfortunately, after that, I had another surgery on this shoulder. I had both my knees done and both my elbows. And then I had my left calf ruptured, and I had to do surgery on that. And so I went through basically almost having like a mortgage at the VA, because I was basically living there for, instead of a couple of years, there's days where I was working from home at the VA, like just doing my like work from home at the VA so I could like maintain a job.
Yeah.
Going to the job thing too is like, I think that it took me forever to realize like I was chasing the wrong type of success. I was going after what everybody in the military thinks that they should do when they get out, and I chased a dollar sign. And I did really well with it. But I could see the more and more my dollar sign was going up, the less and less I was happy, because I was doing everything in my power to chase that dollar sign, but I wasn't doing something that I was passionate about, felt good about. That
something that gave you a purpose and pride in your work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like there's no purpose that I was being provided with just chasing a dollar sign. And so I talked to a friend of mine that I grew up with, and he's like, dude, come be a cop. He's like, I think you'd be a great one. It's like, you love helping people. You got to do it. And I was just like, Minnesota is a state where you get out of the military and you still have to go do your whole degree. So I was like, all right, well, I don't know how to navigate any of this. I kind of got scared, and my wife and I went and bought a camper, and we were planning on moving to Texas, because Texas, I could just go to a police academy, and boom, I'm a cop.
Right. Yeah.
But Minnesota is one of the higher paid states for cops. I looked at like longevity of being able to provide for my family. And this is obviously when I was still lower on my VA disability.
Yeah.
And I looked at it and I said, you know what? I'm gonna see what this GI Bill is all about. And so as I started the extravaganza of figuring out community college as a 29, 30-year-old, I was nervous as all hell, because I'm like, I just did not want to be the grand old man in every class.
Yep.
And walking around and having to hear the, life is rough, and not being able to have empathy or sympathy for it. And at first I didn't. I didn't know how to feel sympathy for people that were dealing with what I considered as less than what I was dealing with.
Yeah.
And I think that was a veteran thing in me. Like
100%. Me too.
I struggle with it, because I would hear like a 18, 19-year-old that's like, yeah, I'm so tired because I work a part-time job and I'm in college full-time. And at this time, I'm working a full-time job in college full-time. I have all my bills. I'm not living with mom and dad. I like have my wife. I have my
with
dog.
a jacked up body.
Yep. On top of that, like I'm a member of I'm a board member of one nonprofit, and I'm still working on my nonprofit, and I'm going back and forth to the VA. And so I was just like trying to navigate it all. And I swear I had to put on 30 pounds. I had bags under my eyes. I didn't go to the gym. My diet was horrible. I was so disgustingly like, I guess drained, but at the same time too, like the work ethic was there. I got everything done. I was getting straight A's, but I was horrendous to myself. I was
And dead inside. Yeah.
not drinking water. I was drinking energy drinks. I was doing, I had tobacco. I basically felt like I was living the Marine Corps without that, happiness I felt from it. And so I was just drained. And I had to have another moment of awakening when in college, I was coming home after one night and I went to go shower and realized something ain't right. And I told the wife, and I'm like, hey, I'm kind of having anxiety right now. I did what you shouldn't do. And I looked up, like, what does this feeling feel like? And everything on WebMD is, it's cancer. It's cancer. And I'm like, what if I have cancer? What if I have cancer? And she's like, you know what? Just go to the VA, right? Like you're stressing out. Like, just go. She's like, it's fine. Let me know how it goes. Well, so then I go to the VA and I'm like, hey, this is what I'm feeling. And like an hour and a half, 2 hours goes by, and they're like, hey, is your wife available? Yeah. I can give her a call. And so I call her the next morning. I'm like, hey, you need to come to the doctors. And she's like, what's up? And I'm like, I don't know, but they're not telling me, but it sounds like it's something, a little serious. Well, then she gets there and the doc comes in and he's just like, hey, right now you have cancer. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm totally unhealthy, but healthy, 29-year-old. And they're like, you have cancer. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And they're like, at the one I had, so I had at the time, it was stage 2 testicular cancer. Testicular cancer that I had was one of the most aggressive forms. So basically in like a matter of 2 or 3 days, I went from having like no symptoms to having severe symptoms to going into emergency surgery and then getting it out, because if I would have continued, I would have been stage 4 testicular cancer in like a week and a half, or it was aggressive. And so we went through that. Now I'm having to call my college and say, hey, I'm not going to be at these classes. Is there any way I can do some of this stuff from online, or can you send me what I need to do? And then I'm calling my work, which at the time I was a community service officer, which at the same police department that I work at now. And I had called my chief and I'm like, Chief, I'm going to be gone for a while. And he's like, well, what's going on now? And, he had already known, like, this year I'd had to go to a few family funerals, and I've had, surgeries in the past. And so then I was like, well, I got diagnosed with cancer. He's just like, you cannot catch a break. And I'm like, I know, like, this is rough. But I think honestly, me having cancer was a very, very phenomenal thing for me. And I look at it as a silver lining, because when I had cancer, I had a lot of time to sit at home and reflect and like, I wouldn't say it's a near death experience. Testicular cancer has like a 5% chance that it would have like, killed me. Right. But it was the big C word, and so I'm sitting at home and I'm like, this is serious. I'm not even 30 yet, and I've had 9 surgeries in cancer. And then that's where I think a lot of it kind of dawned on me, is that I am not your atypical 30-year-old. And then I looked at when I was getting out of the military and I'm having these surgeries. At the time, I'm like, it's just a surgery. But I was 20. I was 26, right? And then I talked to other people that are, 30 years old that haven't been in the military, and they're like, you've had so many surgeries. But I talked to other veterans and they all have the same pains, surgeries. A lot of them have had cancer. You have a lot of the same background. And I realized, like, it is so normal to be abnormal as a veteran.
It is.
And it clicked. And that was my moment. I was like, this is my purpose, is to like use my story of the things I was struggling with in getting out and being able to use that to let other vets know, like, you're not alone in this, because other vets told me I wasn't alone in this, and that helped me. And so now I've tenfold transitioned everything that I've ever, done since being out into turning that into a full blown, I want to help vets out. I want to have my story be a guiding light for their story to be told.
Yeah.
And let them know, like, no matter what you go through, like, there is a reason you should keep pushing forward. Veteran suicide is affecting every veteran. We all wear these,
Yeah.
it happens, and it happens way too damn frequently. And there is probably more than, two hands I can count on where I wanted to give up, where I feel like veterans would have been rightfully so. Yeah, that was a lot he had to deal with, and he was a fighter, and they would have, all kumbaya at my funeral. But why? And that's the question that I have to ask myself every time is like, why? Why do we let it get to that point? And what can I do to do my part to help change that?
Yeah.
I can't stop the whole world from making their decisions, but the ones that I can sit and talk to and hopefully make an impact on, I hope that I get to tell my story to make their story, be worth it. Because there's vets dealing with 10 times of what I've dealt with. And so I'm very thankful for my experiences, because it has helped me, have a lot more sympathy and empathy for just everybody in general, not just veterans. It's helped me get me back through helping veterans and being able to come out on top of all these things that I've struggled with. It's helped me with my VA claims. It's helped me with, college. It helped me look at everything and realize, like, life is very short. The years start flying by when you get out. When you're you don't realize when you're in, everything
It drags
slow. It seems so slow, but then when you get out, you're like, wow, those 8 years are so fast. And then when you get out, it seems like it's always New Year's Eve. And you're like, again? Like, I feel like we barely went through this year.
I just got out.
Exactly. And so I think it was a good dawning moment for me. And I think that vets across the board should just realize, like, no matter what you're going through, there's hundreds and thousands of veterans out there that want to be in your corner, that are already in your corner, but you just don't know that yet, because self-awareness is something we are not particularly good at when we're in
not good
military, because you have somebody that is your self-awareness. You have a leader that's like, you suck at this, you're doing good at that. When you get out, you don't have that.
You have to do that on your own.
You have to do that on your own. And so we're not good at that.
Yeah.
And sometimes tough love I've seen too with other vets is like, when a vet will tell me, like, I'm okay. Like, really, that's awesome, dude. That's great that you're the only veteran in the entire world that's just always okay. Because I know you're not.
Yeah.
Sometimes that tough love and being a little bit more stern is the little push that they need, because I needed that. And it took a Vietnam vet saying, like, thank you for your service. Thank you for what you've done. And I'm like, I haven't done anything compared to you. It's like, you think that, but I know that your service is just as, great and as mine. And I'm like, that's crazy to hear, because no matter what walk of life we've done, we all signed the same dotted line. And this is coming from a guy where, like, when I was getting out, I could have had every opportunity to try to be a vet, bro, and be like, well, you didn't do anything. You didn't do that. I don't find any happiness in that. And I think the vets that are doing that to other veterans are very, very internally struggling.
That's what it is. They are struggling with their own identity and their own, like, accomplishments, and they take it out on other veterans. And that's something that I think, we shouldn't hate those people because of that, because obviously they're struggling. Yep. And, if you're a veteran and you're a bro vet and you're like, oh, this guy didn't do enough or whatever, It's not a healthy way to look at your brothers and sisters.
It's not.
It's not a good way to treat them. I'm not trying to be all, whatever, but
It's
like
true, though. I mean,
treat
it's
some
true.
people with respect, whether they did enough in your eyes or not, keep that shit to yourself. And we all were we were all there. Like we all did some shit, regardless of what it was, we were all there. I bro vets are hard because, you still love them, but they kind of rub you wrong sometimes.
They're a stubborn big brother sometimes.
They are. Yeah. They're very stubborn. I will say, with your cancer, that is about the only time I've seen WebMD do a good job.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true, because I was fighting every reason to find something on Google I could latch onto that's like, oh, it's just a cold.
Yeah.
But
You were
everything I'm
looking for
looking at,
something else.
it's probably cancer. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's not. Like,
It can't be.
there is no way. And then I go there and they're like, have you been around burn pits? And I'm like, yeah, I have. And they're like, have you done this? And they're like, oh, well, statistics show if you've been around burn pits, you're at like a 60% more chance of cancer of testicular or colon. And so then they have to do like colon cancer checks. Like I had to do a colonoscopy at 29 years old.
That's insane.
Like, that's not the norm. And I've started to love being able to say that, like, I'm abnormal.
Yeah.
I am different. Veterans are different. And the culture that we are bred from has created an abnormality that I think we should be proud of. We should lean on. We have a community out there that, before the military, I didn't have 100 other vets I could call if all else fails in my life and say, hey, me and the wife are struggling. We can't do it here anymore. And now I do. I have people I could call from every single state in the United States and just be like, look, man, things aren't working here. And they'd have plans. They'd have a place for me to stay. They take care of my wife. They take care of my dogs. Like, I have a community that is so damn strong that you tend to forget when you get out, because we get caught up in this mess of what the real world is. And I think you said it perfectly earlier. It's like, we don't always stay in touch, and I don't always stay in touch with a lot of the vets. But the first time I message you and you message me and we haven't talked in 6 months, it's like we didn't ever stop talking. Like, what's up, bro? How you doing? How's life going? Dude, I saw your video. I saw this. And it's like the brotherhood reignites from the moment you let go to the moment you start talking again. Like it's never not there. Although sometimes vets will feel that way. And I think that's where the suicide part comes in, is that
100%.
they feel alone. They don't want to reach out, and they feel like the camaraderie is lost. And I think we can all do a better job at it. But I also want to let the vets know it's not your fault that your brother or sister took their life. I struggled with that so badly when I got out, because I always would play the, why didn't I text him? Why did I fall off? Why didn't I give him a call? Why haven't I talked to him? It is unrealistic as a veteran for you to be able to stay in touch with every single veteran you served with all the time.
Dude, I probably know 300 guys from the Marine Corps, at least. There's not a chance I could talk to every single one of them. It would take me 2 years to get through everybody, Like, it's just unrealistic. And I think that's why I want to talk about this, this forum that we're doing, because I not that I'm putting more pressure on a veteran that is going through something, but preface that with, it is your job to reach out when you are going through something.
Absolutely.
You need to. You need to call me. If you're going through something, you need to call me, and or text me. Say, hey, I'm going through it. Give me a call when you get a chance. I'll quit working. I'll leave the job site and call you. I don't care. Like, you are more important to me than all of this other bullshit in my life. Like, it is your responsibility. If you are struggling, you call somebody. You call anyone. Like, I had a buddy from Trax call me, and he was struggling. Same kind of similar situation. 2:00 in the morning on Tuesday night, drunk. I can't do this. And, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna do everything within my power to help you. And I know every other veteran is going to do everything in their power to help you also. So reach out if you are struggling to somebody, anybody, VA, a brother, a sister, whatever. Just reach out.
Absolutely. Because I think I can only help as much as I know. And
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
impossible for me to know everybody's who, what, when, where, why, and hows. And unfortunately, sometimes too, when I do call and I do talk to a vet, the thought of burden, it irks me because I had that thought too. And I don't know why we have that thought, because the people that we have served with and spent time with, lived, eat, breathe, sleep, like our whole life surrounded that brotherhood and sisterhood, right?
Yeah.
There was never a point when I was in where I felt like a burden or they felt like a burden to me. But as soon as you get out, the word burden comes in your head.
It's like instantly
I don't
that.
want to burden them.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, and to any vet watching this, you are not a burden when you reach out. If anything, you are showing more strength than you realize, because there is nothing that will make me happier than knowing that, like, you called me before making a life altering decision for you, your family, myself, other veterans, because at the end of the day, like, I would rather take whatever time and effort I need to do to make sure you continue living and realizing there is always going to be hope on the other side of that.
Yeah.
Veterans think that we get so stuck in thinking that there's just no green grass. But sometimes it takes a whole community to water that grass, to make it
Yeah.
green.
Yeah, it
And
does.
sometimes that community is built by just having one phone call. Because if somebody in my time in service called me, guess what? I know the other 50 people that we served with too, that I can also start calling. 'Cause now that I know, they're going to want to know. And then we're going to all figure out what's the best plan to get you taken care of. I don't know what's going on with
I
that.
don't know what's going on there either, but
Yeah.
no, I totally agree, dude. Yeah, reaching out is the first step, whether it's a disability claim, whether it's, you're feeling suicidal, or you just want to bullshit, If you just want to bullshit, give me a call. I don't mind bullshitting. I don't mind
Absolutely.
talking to you about, shit that you're going through. And I know you've struggled with it, and I've struggled with it too, is you get so hard-headed and so driven to make that dollar or to get that promotion or to whatever your goal is. Because, we're so goal oriented when we get out that, like, if you don't have a goal, you're like, what's the point? And even when you got those goals, you get that promotion and you stop and you look around and you go, nothing's fucking changed. Like, what
Yeah.
was the point of chasing that goal? And you get to, I've struggled with it a lot, is what's the point? What is the point of existing? What's the point of life? And it's hard to navigate that when you're doing that alone. I've had to lean on a lot of my buddies that are here that were in the military. I call them up and I'm like, hey man, I just, I don't know what the fucking point of life is right now. And sometimes all it takes is a 15-minute bullshit session and you get through it and you can keep going. Yeah. I reach out if you need help, reach out. So prior to being a cop,
Yeah.
prior to being a cop, when you were working your other job, did you ever feel like your disabilities that weren't, prevalent just by looking at you, obviously you got both your arms, you got both your legs.
Just
Did
got
you?
both my nuts.
And both your nuts, which is great. I'm
I
glad.
only have one now. So
Oh, you don't have both your nuts?
yeah, they had to take one. I'm the new nickname is Juggernaut. So
Juggernaut.
yeah.
Well, I don't know if guys at your work prior saw that very often, if they see
No,
your balls
I don't
very
think
often.
anyone knew.
Okay. When you would work with guys and, did you ever notice that there was kind of a stigma when you would be feeling shitty or your body would be hurting. You know, like, yeah, my shoulder's acting up today. And everyone's like, you're fucking 20 years old. You're 20, whatever years old.
Yeah.
Who the fuck are you to hurt? I'm 78, or whatever. Did you ever see that?
Yeah, because so when I was in a position when I first got out, I was an operation manager at like Allied, and then I got into John Deere, and I was director of operations for like the upper Midwest. So I did a lot of stuff for Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. The position that I was always in an uphill battle because I was 27 at the time when I got into it, or 26 going into 27. And I was in a position where a lot of people that had been there didn't think that I should have had that position because they were 40, 45, 50 years old, that they put in for it, but I beat them at it. And so the uphill battle was like anything that I felt like I was doing was under a microscope, because the corporate world and the industry of corporate is that they always want to see you fail because they want your position. And it was a very dog eat dog world. I think veterans thrive in that, but I was so unhappy because I just constantly felt like I wasn't allowed to have bad days. I wasn't allowed to feel pain. I was always having to put on my best face because somebody always wanted to find a way to drag that down so they could have that position.
Yeah.
And it was very hard for me. I would talk to the wife all the time because I'd travel a lot, and I'd go to John Deere dealerships and I would say, you do good at this and you suck at this. And I would like come up with operational plans for them during a time where, like, jurisdictionally wise, they'd say, hey, you got to go and you tell a 45-year-old general manager of like 3 different John Deere stores, like, you need to hire more people. And it's during COVID. So that's the kick line. And they're like, where are the people? And I'm going to places like Mason, Wisconsin that have 96 population.
Yes.
They're like, okay, Mr. Smartass, like, where are the people? You tell me where the people are. And I'm like, not my job, like your job.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of felt like grimy, and then when I started having some issues with like just not feeling well, I didn't feel like I had outlets for that, because it's like people at work, I couldn't like just go and be like, hey, I'm kind of having a shitty day. Or I couldn't be like, hey, like, my body's acting up, because they'd be like, what do you mean? You're young. When I was your age, I was doing this and I was fine. And, and like, I started trying to do like outside activities. Like I played softball, like men's full pitch softball. And I would play and I would just be like, things are tight, or, I need to sit for an inning. And they're like, dude, when I was your age, I was slamming beers and doing this. And I'm like, I get it.
Backflips. Yeah.
I'm like, I get it, because, I look at it when I was in the military, I don't know how I functioned, because now that I'm out, if I were to choose having alcohol one day, I'm out of service the next 2 days. But in the military, I could do it every single day and operate. And there was a point of prime in my life, I think, where I just was on autopilot for 8 years in the Marine Corps. But since being out, like, I have had to put in a lot of work to get my like body to function appropriately, to be able to do the job as a cop, to be able to like live and wake up, refreshed. And I'm 30 years old, and if you go into my freezer, like, I have 2 leg sleeves, 2 knee sleeves, I have ankle sleeves that are like freeze ones. I have more therapeutic stuff that I bought off Amazon than I feel like 60-year-old men have. And when I hear the like, oh, you're young, like, you're right. Per age, I am young. But my body has got a lot of miles on it. I've done a lot of things to my body that doesn't make my body feel great all the time. I have to since my cancer, I got peripheral neuropathy in both my legs. So for the rest of my life, I'm going to have to take medicine in the morning before I can even like operate my legs, because peripheral neuropathy is nerve damage. Basically, the nerves aren't talking to the muscles. When I wake up in the morning, my legs are burning and numb. So then I take my nerve medicine to be able to have my nerves talk to my muscles. And like, that's not normal for 30-year-olds to
It's
have.
not. It's not. And it's hard to explain to people like those older guys that you're working with, oh, I don't get it. I don't get it. That's something I see a lot is, in the trades. It's like, oh, I've been doing this job for 30 years and I'm not bitching like you. And I'm like, yeah, but I got 40 years worth of bullshit on this body, you know?
Absolutely. And it is funny because like my dad, he's a blue collar guy, and I did concrete before I joined the military, and my dad had a little bit of like, we kind of went back and forth because he's a man's man. He's the type of guy you give him a knife, you put him in the middle of the wilderness, and he builds a kingdom kind of guy.
Yeah.
And so it's hard. I mean, like he's done every bit of damage to his body, but like it's probably hard for him too to be able to see, like, at 30 he might have felt pains because he was doing concrete and all these things, but he's done a really good job at like being able to not make me feel less than because I am younger with all these pains, because he understands it.
That's awesome.
He's been able to see structurally. I'll go to help him on the farm. My dad owns cattle, and
Yeah.
I'll go to help him on the farm, and I'll like lift one thing and boom, my back will pop and I'm out, like, what the heck's going on? And when the hell, we didn't stretch in the military. And now before I do anything, I'm having to stretch. I go to the gym, and before I hit my workout, I do a full blown like stretch of like every part of my
Looking
body.
like
So
yoga in there.
yeah, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm sitting here making sure everything is ready before I go out and like do anything, like, a run. Sometimes stretching causes strain on my body, and I'm like,
100%.
that's where I'm like, it's a culture shock for sure, because when you're in the military, I say we're the most unhealthy, healthy human beings because
Yeah.
we drink like a fish. We have, tobacco products up the yin yang. Like, I didn't smoke until my first deployment, and then I realized, oh, if I smoke, I can get a break. Because if
Yep.
I dip, I
Free
couldn't
break.
get a break. And so I started smoking, started doing smoke breaks, and now I don't. I will have one a time or two whenever I've had a lot of alcohol in my
Yeah.
system, because it brings back the drinking at the smoke pit days. But I've started to make better decisions because my body needs me to. I can't get away with a Red Bull and freaking a cigarette in the morning as my breakfast, and then a Red Bull and a can of dip as my lunch. And like, yeah, I can't do that anymore. And I see people that are my age that just, they almost are living like we were in the military. They can have, nastier eating habits. They can do things so freely, and it's just their body isn't in the pains that my body feels.
Yeah.
And I have to like kind of check myself and be like, it's okay that I'm not like that, because
Yeah. And you got
I
to
made
think
the
those
decision.
guys, they're doing a portion of how hard we were on our bodies for 4, 5, 6 years, whatever you were in for. They're
Yep.
doing, they're doing kind of what we were doing, but over, that's why they start hurting at 35, 40 years old, because they stretched it out. We condensed all of that fuckery into 4 years or
Yep.
let,
Absolutely.
or right around there. So I, yeah, dude, it's crazy how I'm really glad your dad is cool with you about that. That's
Yeah. He's,
a big help.
I was worried because like I always tell him, like, I feel like inferiority complex
Yeah.
for me started before the military, because he's a guy that is very, very hard to fill in those boots, because I mean, the guy is the blue collar extraordinaire. I mean, the guy
Yeah.
can fix anything, knows how to do fishing, hunting. Like, he's a man's man. He knows, is one of those guys where if he doesn't know how to do it, he figures it out right then and there. And I don't have that ability. I will bring my car to get fixed by somebody else, and my dad could be like, he does it so he doesn't have to do it. but if he needed to, he can do it. He can fix the vehicle. He can build a house from the ground up. He's a farmer. Like anything that this man needs to do, he can do. And so for me, getting out of the military, I think that's another thing too, that is a thing that's hard on men when they're getting out, and I only say men in this, that, I think the female veterans, may have their own side of it too. But I think structurally, when you get out, people look at it as like, you're a man's man. And we deal with it at our fishing trips, right? You'll have guys that didn't have fathers when they joined the military. You'll have guys that didn't have some of this structure when they joined the military of like how to do some of this stuff, change their own oil, go fishing, go hunting. So like our trips that we do, we'll preface it as like, this is not a place to like, you have to be a man's man. Come out and learn how to fish. If you don't know how to fish, we'll teach you. Because I think when you get out, people just assume that you're in the military and you get out and you know how to do everything.
They think you're Rambo.
Like they've watched one too many movies, and then you get out and I'm like, what I learned from the military is how to absolutely like slam my feelings down with an entire bottle of Jack and finishing that off with a 12-pack of beer. That's what I figured out how to do. I figured out how to not handle stress appropriately, how to be angry all the time, and how to be ready for war. But that didn't, when I first
that
got out,
doesn't translate to the civilian world.
Dude, being a homeowner the first time you get out, I didn't know, like, and this is, I will gladly say this out there. Everyone in the comments can man check me in the comments. I am fine with that. I will be honest with you. I was a barracks dweller for, almost 8 years of my career. When I got out, I will tell you what, I did not know I had to change the filter on my HVAC every month. I didn't know the sizes. I didn't know how to do half the stuff to be a homeowner. I didn't know any of that. It was a rough awakening because as a man, I didn't want to have to be like, oh, hey, I don't know how to do these things in the real world, because everyone just expects you to be this top tier, Rambo when you're getting out. Like, do I know how to take apart a gun and put it back together in a very short amount of time? Absolutely. Do I know how to take care of my house? No.
No, I've never had to.
Do I know how to do like lawn services? Yeah, I can start a lawnmower. Yeah, I can mow my lawn. Do I know that I have to mow it different ways to let the grass grow healthier? Do I have to know about certain things, how to operate some machinery? Like, no, I don't know how to do that. And it was hard for me because I'm like, I'm getting out, and the guys that were in Minnesota that stayed here, that it's a pretty outdoorsman kind of state, they continuously got better at it as I got better at other things. And I get back and I'm like, hey, do you mind kind of like showing me how to do this? And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, they're like,
I don't know how to do this, bro.
You're 28 years old. How do you not know how to do this? And I'm like, yeah, I'm just kidding, man, blah, blah. You don't have to. And then I'm like watching YouTube videos trying to figure it out because I don't know how to do a lot of this stuff. I don't know how to do anything. You realize like how little you were taught on how to survive in the real world in the military. Structurally, I'm really good at working. I have a good work ethic. I will outwork ethic everything. If you tell me something needs to get done, I am really good at figuring out how to get it done. But if like on my off time, I have stuff that I need to get done around the house, I had to like learn how to do all that stuff. It just was, I look at it and I'm like, it seemed like everybody just got a class in home ownership while I was gone. And I come back and everyone else was like, oh, have you done this? Have you done that? Do you know how to do this? Do you know how to do that? And I'm like, I don't. Like, I don't even know how to set up bills for this. Like,
and
what
their
the hell
class
is a
was
bill?
the 6 years you were gone. That was their class. Is them doing that, doing the same thing you were doing, but they did it 6 years ago, 5 years ago, and you were, because the military really sets you up to do the mission. They take care of all the other bullshit, housing. They take care of food. They take care of all the stupid little stuff, lawn maintenance, and then you focus on your job and your mission. You don't have to worry about all this BS over here on like taking care of shit. You just focus on the mission, do your job, and we're good. So you get out. Yeah, you own a house and you're like, oh, dude, I have a plumbing issue. I'm like, I don't know how to do plumbing,
Yeah.
or I have an HVAC issue or whatever, and it's crazy the amount of stuff that you miss.
Bills. Like, let's talk about that. What the hell are those? I mean, when you're in the military, you're like, I get paid dog shit money.
But at least it's consistent.
But then you get out and you realize, like, you make a decent living while you're in, because everything that is a bill in the real world is covered by the military. My money in the military goes to, like, my car, my insurance, my Wi-Fi, and then alcohol.
Beer.
And tobacco.
Yeah.
When you're out, like, I didn't realize, and you don't really realize, there's obviously some go-getters when they're getting out, or they might have some life experience coming in, but I joined at 18, right?
Yeah.
I've worked jobs, I did concrete, like, I had life experience in the fact of, like, home life, had struggling home life growing up and stuff like that. But when I get out, like, my wife, one of the first times you bring her to the ER, I'm used to the TRICARE mentality of, like, well, let's go, and it was a issue on her finger. Well, she cut her finger open a little bit while she was, like, cleaning a knife or preparing a dinner or something. Yeah. Well, my first thought is, let's go to the ER. Let's go knock this out right now. Well, we go, and then we get a gigantic bill for about 15 minutes of being there for them to put a couple quick stitches. And I'm like, okay, or it was glue, not even stitches. They put glue on it, glued it together. And then I'm like sitting here, and all of a sudden I get a bill in the mail, and I had swallowed my stomach. I see this bill, and then I'm starting to figure out that not only are you receiving one, you're receiving one bill from the hospital and one bill from the doctor now. And I'm like, what the hell is all this? And you're looking at dental, and you're looking at all of these things that are so greatly clouded in the military that when you get out, the world hits you, and you're like, what the hell? You realize
everything
how much
costs something.
Rent is, mortgages, like, you're looking at stuff and you're like, I had it really good in the military. You don't realize that when you're in, because you're so clouded with I don't want to keep doing this, dumb PT. I have to tell them every freaking place I'm going to stop to piss and get gas on my way home on my leave shit. Like, everything is so clouded, though, you do have it pretty good in the military. And when you get out, you kind of start having a really rough realization of, like, wow, I suck at living. Yeah. Because when you're in, they have all the living part of your life figured out for you.
Yeah, it's all taken care of. Just do your job.
Yeah. And they don't teach you any of that when you get out. Like, I was so underprepared. I mean, I did a good job at figuring it out, right?
Yeah.
But damn, I was underprepared, dude.
Well, you think TRS would at least go over a little bit, like,
hey, if you're going to own a home, these are things that you should check at your home every month. It's like, I knew to go change my oil when I first bought my car. Like, I knew these things because structurally, like, those are the things you're taught. You're not taught about home ownership in high school. You're not taught about any of that growing up. Like, and then when you're first getting your house and you're first getting all these things, you're getting your disability and all this, and you're just watching your money just fly out the door to these bills that you didn't know existed when you're in, or they exist, but you don't really know the, like, absolute amount of these things. Rent. Oh, dude,
like gas and power here. I'm like, I got this house and I didn't even take into account gas and power every month. And I'm paying, $500-$600 a month. In the summer, it's electricity for AC, and in the winter, it's gas for heat. And you don't take into account when you're figuring out, oh, can I afford this house? You're like, oh, it's this much for the mortgage, and then this much for insurance, and then this much for whatever. You don't think about, oh, it might be $500-$600 to heat and cool this place down. It's just
or like every day in the military at the chow hall is a buffet. Yeah. I can eat as much as I want.
And it's already done. It's already made.
Get the gains. And then I get out and I'm like, I eat a lot. Even now I eat a lot.
Yeah.
And when I was seeing how much it costs for me to eat what I want to eat and just keep on that, I was like, this is insane. Like when I was getting out and I'm working out still, and I'm like, have that, workout hunger where I'm just constantly hungry. I'm going through just so much damn money.
Sorry, I got to plug my phone in.
Oh, you're
Sorry,
all
guys. Yeah, I mean, it's insane the amount of money that you spend on, like I'm on the carnivore diet right now, which is even worse.
Which is a phenomenal diet. If anyone
It
wants
is.
to, I love it. It is
Yeah.
phenomenal.
It's been doing good.
Yeah. It's rough at first, dude.
It is.
And
you have to eat a lot.
Yep. And it can be spendy, but there's ways to do it in a cheap way. You don't get you miss out on having like I did it the not cheap way, and I was having steak twice a day.
Yeah.
Eating like premium eggs and all that, but like you can do it with ground beef, egg, have your salt, butter. I mean, butter is the biggest thing in that, dude. I love it, but there's nothing that is cheap when you get out, dude.
No, there's
so if you're planning on getting out, like I'm telling you, nothing better than putting in a BDD claim and starting to figure out a plan, because the grass is not greener on the other side until you make it that way.
Yeah. It's a lot of work to get to that point to where the grass is finally greener. Like it's taken me, it's been 5 years since I've been out.
Yep.
And the grass only just recently started getting fairly green.
Yep.
I've at points, you'll get to I bought a house in 2022, I think I want to say 21, 22, and the grass seemed pretty green. And then, the house bullshit comes along with that.
Yeah.
And then, you do your next thing, you get a better job, you do this, and it's a long process of finding. And that's a big part of it, is finding what your green grass is, like mine is different than yours, and for every veteran, it's going to be different, some guys are career driven and they really do feel good getting a career that's good and providing for their family and having a nice long, a career that has longevity. And then some guys hate it, like me, I hate working for the man. I'm looking at other avenues, and it's okay to not have it all figured out when you get out.
I don't think you ever will. I think even when you get to the point where you think, like right now, you even said it, you had phases of like, my grass is green, but then all of a sudden you find a way to make it greener.
Yeah.
I am very, very comfortable and very, very happy with where I'm at. But when you get there, I think we're so driven into like, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. And I don't think that that's a bad thing, but it's hard to be content as a vet, dude. It is, because every time I hit the next threshold of like happiness, I'm like, what's next? Like, well, what's next? And being content is very hard for me. I'm always at 100 all the time, always trying to find the next thing. The one thing I can say that has really helped me is find something you're passionate about, whether it's monetary like value that comes with it or not. Like find a way to break up the monotony of the week. Like get into a bowling league, go play golf with your friends. Like find a way that like one day a week you can go at least do something you're passionate about, play a sport, work out, like find something, go on a hike, go camping, like find one thing that you are passionate about and make it your duty to try and get out there and do that once a week.
Yeah.
It'll drastically help you find some like peace in your monotony of not being able to be as content and battling through some of the emotions and mental health you're going to deal with. Because like for me, I grew up playing baseball, and playing, men's softball has been something that I look at as every surgery I do or everything I do is me trying to get back to that passion. Instead of me saying like, this sucks and I hate this, I look at it now as like, this is going to help me be able to do what I want to do and that I'm passionate about.
Instead of looking at it like a disability and being depressed about it. Oh, I can't play softball or I can't play baseball.
This is going to make me better at it now that I'm fixing the things that
exactly
hurt. And finding a silver lining in some of these things. I think hope is a big thing that veterans need, and it helps you hold on to something because, like you said, we're very goal orientated. I think having our goal being hope, like on the other end of everything bad that happens to us, is huge. Is so huge because as you're navigating the real world in the transitional time, there's one thing that I can tell you that has helped me, and that's hope. Like hope that today might suck, tomorrow might suck, but eventually it won't. There's hope in every story, and I think that that is something that if you don't have hope, you have nothing to hold on to. You have no will to live, and that's where, full circle, that's where we go back to like the suicide thing is you don't have hope, find hope. Let other people help you find hope. Get into something, like go do something fun. Like you're a big guy that loves to like fix things and then go out and destroy them. Like that is fun. That's awesome. That is great. That is something that you enjoy doing. That is a passion that you're able to now start trying to find a way to navigate into your, Skeeter's garage. Like turning your passion into something that can also be monetary. There's a lot of things out there that vets can do, but we just don't know that it's accessible. And
Exactly.
I love it. Like my nonprofit's what I'm passionate about. Playing sports, what I'm passionate about. I love fishing, big time. Going out there and fishing, there's nothing better than it. I love fishing. Like that's where I think people need to find what you're passionate about, because when you're in the military, you don't have time per se for passion. You have your brothers, your left and right, your sisters, your left and right. That kind of helps alleviate not having those passions because you're around family all the time. You're around your bunch of degenerate family that like you just love to death. And it's allowed to make life a little bit easier living. And when you get out, and we all live in different walks and states and spaces, finding passion in your everyday life allows you to, look forward to something. If you do it on a Wednesday, Monday and Tuesday, you're looking to Wednesday. After Wednesday, now you only have 2 days left of work. Like if you work weekends, like, find stuff to do that like you can look forward to. That's huge. In my opinion,
totally agree.
That's huge. So
having a passion, and finding that passion, I think is super important. Because that gives you hope right there. Having like, okay, the world isn't all, because like you were saying, monotony, breaking up the monotony, dude. That is where I struggle, is when I get in that monotonous cycle. Wake up, go to work, go to the gym, come home, go to bed, wake up, go to work, just over and over and over. And Skeeter's Garage has broken that monotony for me, having that and being able to share that. And the podcast.
And you're starting to find more avenues of things that you're interested in and passionate about that are, I can't speak for you in your experience, but I can imagine that from my experience of helping vets and being able to have my outreach to vets, and this is now your outreach to vets, and being able to tell your story and hear other stories, it's got to be pretty healing.
Oh, I love it.
Exactly, right? And it's like, and that's where I'm big in wanting to be able to find out what makes people happy. What's your passion? Like, what's your passion in life? Go out there and do it. There's so much world out here that we didn't have. And the silver lining that I keep talking about is everyone, when they get out there, like, life sucks. You're right. The real world is a totally different world. There's a lot of things that can be looked at negative, but the positive is you're not on a base. You're not surrounded
stuck. You don't have to do what somebody's telling you to do. All the things that we think are great when we're in, that we're like, oh, I'm looking forward to not having to shave. I'm looking forward to this. You kind of lose that when you get out and you forget about that. Like, oh, I don't have to wake up at 4 a.m. and go run on a beach tomorrow morning. Like, you forget about that. And that opens so many doors to, like, now you get to just do whatever you want to do. Like, I had a buddy, and I think a big thing you kind of hit on it was dealing with anger when you get out. A lot of guys deal with just being angry. You're not in control anymore. You can't tell anybody what to do. You don't have any say in anything that Joe Blow on the road that just cut you off. You don't have any say in what he just did.
Yeah,
You have to
absolutely.
accept that. And one of the things that I found for me that has helped a lot is I told my buddy verbatim, if we get canceled for it, whatever, I said, go do some gay shit, bro. Like, just go watch The Notebook and cry.
Yep.
Go paint. Go have a bath with some bubbles. Like, just chill and let yourself be whoever you want to be, just be easy, and be cool. And I think that's a big thing is like dealing with that anger portion, because I was, for a long time, I was kind of in the mindset of let a motherfucker say something to me when I was at work,
Yeah.
and I was so wrapped up in being mad. And I'm like, why? Like, you gotta realize you don't have control in the real world. And it's kind of rough it's a slap in the face, honestly. Because, being NCOs, we were NCOs together on deployment. And, if somebody screwed up, somebody looked to us to fix it, and we went and fixed it, and we could control the situation. You don't get that out here, to an extent. Sometimes you can, depending on situation dictates kind of thing. But if somebody cuts you off in traffic, you'll never probably see that person again.
Yeah.
And you're going to sit there and let it ruin your day. And I feel like a lot of veterans struggle with that portion of it. And I kid you not, doing some gay shit really helped me out.
And another thing too is like a big thing I like telling NCOs, one of my punchlines for them is when they're going through the process and we're working with them is, as an NCO, when your boot got a D-dub and you're getting yelled at for it, but you have 100 Marines under you, how did that make you feel? And he's like, it sucked because like I'm being held accountable for someone else's choices. And like, exactly, like that is something that is horrendous. That always like irked me because I'm like, why does that have anything to do with me? How am I supposed to have eyes on all 100 of my Marines?
Yeah, what are they supposed to sit in an auditorium all day and I just watch them?
Like, yep, none of you guys are doing anything. Yeah. And I never understood that. But now I can use that as leverage when we get out because it's like, you also don't have control of the 100 Marines and 100 veterans' choices. And if somebody goes and chooses to take their life, you cannot sit there and hold yourself accountable for that action. But what you can do is find something to hold on to be passionate about, and tell your story to other vets. Make other vets realize like they're not alone. You are not going to be able to make that phone call. You're not going to be able to, go tenfold and be the perfect vet. None of us are perfect. We are all imperfect in our own ways, but finding a glimmer of hope, because when we get out of the military, we are so structurally not built for civilian stress. Yeah. Because when we handle stress in the military, we get really drunk, we fight, we do all these things that in the real world have criminal charges. That's called assault, and that's called, public intoxication. You see it, and like, we are not built to transition out. And there's a reason for that, because when you're in, you said it best, like, we are built for the mission. We are built for the one specific thing that we're supposed to do. And when structurally it's not a good answer, but when you're like, all right, I'm out, they're like, sweet, have a good one.
Later.
Good luck at IPAC, and hopefully you don't absolutely hate yourself after it, because it's not an easy process. Yeah. And then once you get out, like, they just, as soon as you say you're getting out, nobody's like, oh, hey, let's sit down, let's figure out a plan, let's work with you. They're like, you're not a part of our mission anymore. You got to do what you got to do. Have fun with that.
Yeah, go away.
And that's just it. And so you get out, you are so underprepared. One thing I wish somebody would have told me getting out, not a failure on them. Like I said, a lot of people don't know about their benefits. I wish somebody would have told me about a BDD claim.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is.
So a BDD claim, if you are in the service right now and watching this video and you want to not struggle with service connection disabilities, from 180 days out to 90 days out of your service, between that 180 to 90 day mark, you can put in a BDD claim. You can start your VA claim while you're still in the service. The good thing about that that is awesome about that, and I don't know why it's not advertised, that would be, in my opinion, the first thing they should talk about at TRS. Hey, welcome to TRS. Today we're putting in a BDD claim. Because what that does is it makes it very hard for the VA to not service connect your stuff, because any issues you're having at that time,
still in.
you are still in.
Yeah.
You are still currently in the service. They don't have to play the, what did you do 2 months after you got out? Oh, I work concrete. Oh, okay, cool. That's what caused your back problem. Oh, really? Yeah. My back problem just randomly resonated from the 2 months I've done concrete since I've been out. Although that might be true where there is some negligence of blue collar trade work causing damage to my body, that is not the full reason I have the issue.
That's not where it started.
And so if you look into it, or anybody looks into it, if you're still in the service, please look into a BDD claim. If you need help with a BDD claim, reach out to Northern Warriors Foundation. Like Kyle said, it's going to be in the link below. BDD claims make everybody's life easier, my life easier, because the highest percentage you have at getting 100% on a first claim is a BDD claim, because it is so hard for them to deny service connection for issues you're having when you're still in the service. And the only time you can do it is 180 days to 90 days out, and you'll do your VA claims while you are still a service member. Like, do those claims. Those claims will make your life so much easier. Nothing against VSOs, nothing against, DAB and all these other organizations. They're all great organizations in their own way, but everyone has only so much ability that they can do in the process. Yeah. The BDD claim is a tenfold the best claim you can put in, because you are still currently serving.
And you start getting paid directly after you get out, right?
100%.
Yeah, you just get the paycheck like it never went away.
You are getting out, and then you're seeing a paycheck that matches both of your paychecks put together when you're getting out. You're like, what the hell is this? And you're like, this is great, because now whatever transitional thing you're getting out into, you are having the ability to work at Hot Topic when you get out and still make almost 6 figures a year.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says. Money doesn't buy you happiness. Well, it definitely makes transitioning easier.
And it makes life easier.
Yeah.
It's not going to make you happy, and it's not going to give you purpose, but it'll make it easier to find.
But it'll take the financial burdens and stressors as you're figuring life out, which can truly help your pathway of finding what you're passionate about, of changing your career multiple times.
Having that buffer of being able to be like, this isn't working out. I don't like doing this job. I want to try doing this instead. And having that buffer of disability money coming in is so much stress off of a veteran that, dude, it's like I said, it's life-changing for a lot of guys.
Absolutely. I've changed careers 3 times since being out, and I got out in 2020. So, about to be coming up on 5 years this July.
Yeah.
I have changed careers 3 times, and with those 3 times of me changing, there's a lot of time in between those where I wasn't getting paid. And I will tell you, I don't know how I would have done it or how people do it without the VA disability. Yeah. I give it to the people in the civilian world that are living, and working and doing all this stuff without it, because we are very, very, very fortunate to have, like you even said, even if it's 10, 20, 30%, that could cover a car bill. That could cover, your heat and electricity. Like, there is a benefit out there that is so underutilized, and I don't know why, because as you and I are living in it, it has structurally made my life easier. When I hit a wall and I'm like, I need to make a decision, I don't have to think about financially, what is this decision going to do to my family? I can say, that's it. I want to go be a welder tomorrow and figure it out. And that is something that I think we overlook so wholeheartedly, and we shouldn't, because, dude, it is awesome to be able to have the freedom to make decisions on such a rash, quick way, because
dude, it's so freeing.
I don't feel good today. Let me make a life-altering decision to go to this school instead and change my whole ultimate career that I've been providing my family with because I don't feel okay and I need to find something that meets a threshold that's going to make me feel passionate about what I do. I am living proof of that specific choice because I've done it 3 times. I'm obviously very happy as a cop. I get to help people and it really hits my passion. But
you
I've
were
had
able
to
to find that. You were able to go through the bullshit and find that and find something you're passionate about
almost
because you
5
did
years,
your disability.
almost 5 years. And I've hated and struggled at jobs before this because I was like, this sucks. This is a means to an end. That's all it was. I was doing this to just go with the corporate bullshit, the 9 to 5 world that we live in, that I had to do it because I thought that was all that was out there.
Yeah. Chasing that dollar sign.
My benefits were allowing me to make a decision to find what's next.
Yeah.
And sometimes finding what's next, you might have to go through it 5, 6, 7 times.
Yeah.
But it's out there. It is out there for every single veteran to find what's next.
It is.
But you got to do some of the work on your end. And sometimes the work is as simple as, like you said, I need help. It doesn't even have to be the depressive state of I need help. You reach out to a friend like, hey, I want to do this. I don't know how to do this. I need help. Oh, cool. I've actually done this before. Or actually, I have a buddy who's done this before. Or I have a buddy who helps with VA claims. I've talked to a VSO. It all starts with the I need help. Yeah. That's what we're all here for. We've all used it. We've all leaned on each other. And I will be the first one to hear if you've reached out to a veteran and you've said, I need help, that person is not a part of the brotherhood if they aren't saying, let's work on this, let's figure this out together, because they're not living with the true brotherhood, sisterhood mentality of just because you're out doesn't mean the brotherhood, sisterhood dies. We are there to help you. We all want to see, if you know a vet that doesn't want to see vets succeed, please let me know. I would love to out him.
Take care of it.
Yeah, I'd love to out that person personally because I don't know a vet that wouldn't, want to see a veteran succeed. Sometimes they can't be the reason that other vet does succeed, but doesn't mean that they don't want to see them succeed.
And that doesn't mean they can't be a stepping stone.
Absolutely.
You might have a guy that, he wants to do A, B, and C, and maybe you don't know how to do that, but I do. So you send him my way. Or a guy needs some help with his VA claim, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing. And I send him to you.
We have the biggest networking system out of the military, and people do not utilize it enough because you look at it let's talk big corporation, grunt style, combat iron repair, all these things that veterans start. It's because they have a buddy that lives in 7 different states that can wear their clothes, that can advertise their clothes. Other veterans see it and they're like, oh yeah, that's cool. I like that. Whoopee hoodies are, they're one of my favorite things ever. Yeah. I love whoopee hoodies. And those started from a vet just saying I like this, and they have their friends wear it, and then boom, it grows.
Takes off. Yeah.
Social media, you have Skier's Garage. You want your thing to blow up. You say, hey, I want you to share it. All these people are from all their different states. Their families all live there. Their friends all live there. And boom, now you just networked 30 different states by reaching out to 30 of your friends that all live in different states that are all I want to see your company succeed. You let me know, brother. I'll share it. We have a network ability that is so hard to create because we have many people in so many states.
Let a civilian try to create that network. Yeah. They'll die before they
got to go to corporate meetings. They got to hope that people have their best interest at heart. I don't. I could be like, hey, bro, I'm thinking of this idea. And they're like, whether it, succeeds or doesn't, I'll be with you on the build up and the downfall. Let's do it.
Go.
You let me know. That's awesome. That right there is the veteran community to me.
Dude. And that's the kind of veteran community we're trying to build here. It's just, a community that helps out, a community that's there for each other, just like we were in the military, I can't remember how many times I went out to the smoke pit on ship and I was just like, bro, this just seeing nothing but ocean is really fucking with me. And I'd talk to you, I'd talk to Johnny, I talk to Buckley, and we just bullshit and we figure it out. And, that having that community and that network, is just, it's an amazing thing that we have. And like you said, a lot of guys don't utilize it like they could, and utilizing your brothers and sisters is probably one of the easiest and quickest ways to help yourself and get to a better position. Because just like with everything in life, we all go through different things once we get out. We all choose different career paths. We all choose different, ways of life even. Some guys go live in a van and drive up the West or East Coast. And then some guys sit down and build a family and do the white picket fence thing. And, you got guys that do a ton of different jobs, a ton of different avenues of life. And we just have such a big pool of knowledge and ideas that we can pull from. We are very blessed to have that.
And I think you said it perfectly. Blessed is something we don't think of very often getting out of the military, because we are so misconstrued and clouded that everything sucks and the world sucks. But like, we have more opportunity to succeed in this world than a lot of people realize. We have so much out there, but people just don't know how to tap into it. Start tapping into it. You have so much opportunity to succeed. And I'm not talking financially. You can do it financially. I'm talking, you have so many opportunities to find things that you're passionate about, school, toward none of this, like all the benefits that we have, and you utilize them the right way. The world is at your hands, dude.
100%.
You have so much opportunity to do something, make a difference, have the white picket fence. You want to go and get your VA disability and go travel the coast of California, surfing, beach hopping, and smoking weed. Guess what? Do it.
You can do it.
The world is your choice of what you make it. And there's resources out there to do that, to do just that. Nobody is going to sit here and tell you how to live your life. They're just going to help you find resources to make that choice easier.
Yeah. They're going to help you figure out how to make that a reality.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. I was going to say one more thing too. I'm a board member for MSMA. Like I said, one of my passions is softball. Yeah. MSMA is Minnesota Softball Military Appreciation. We do a 9/11 tournament every year to represent veterans. The thing that our tournament does is all the money we raise, we vote on benefactors, or we vote on beneficiaries. And so each year we pick different veteran nonprofits and we donate money that we build to their nonprofits to help them grow. And so if you're also a nonprofit owner out there and you're looking to grow your nonprofit, we are on the news every year during 9/11. And we have a lot of marketing on that one. That one's a lot bigger than my nonprofit is. Mine is a very personalized to each vet that I deal with. Yeah. Their nonprofit that I am very thankful being on is built to expand the veteran community through helping expand more nonprofits getting out there to help. Like you said, if I can't help you with something, we're helping other nonprofits build theirs to just completely across the board have nonprofits for every entity of any problem any veteran is ever going to deal with. And it's phenomenal, dude. I'll have to have you come out, dude, for one of these. We do a whole big event at our house. We have vets from last year. We had probably about 18 vets stay at our house with our camper house, the farm, all that. And then we just go. Some of them play, some of them don't, but they meet all these different trips that nonprofit organizations do. And some of the vets got to go on not elk, but they got to go on a specialized hunting trip and bring their families out to it in Montana. Wow. That was awesome. Some of them went up to Lake of the Woods, ice fishing. Some of them go on White River, rafting, ice fishing trips. And I mean, not ice fishing, but fishing trips. And just very unique trips that you just didn't know you could just go out and do and be able to do it with your family and friends and other vets. And just the amount of, you see camaraderie at this event. It's during 9/11. You have like local police departments, fire departments, they come to the flag, and we have people sing the national anthem, and they have 2 teams of every branch, and they get a bragging rights trophy.
Wow.
It is the first thing before I ever started my nonprofit that really helped heal me. Is that's where my community started.
Yeah.
How many vets were just let alone in my state, but then how many nonprofits that they've helped grow. And I've used some of the nonprofits for my own nonprofit to help vets out, such as Vietnam vet getting his vehicle paid for to get it fit. Like, it is absolutely shown me how strong the veteran community is, because when everybody comes together, it is a powerhouse of people that just know how to get shit done and want to take care of each other. And it's phenomenal to see that gear in full effect, like well-oiled machine.
That's badass. All right, dude, I love to hear it. We'll link that also in the description. Yeah, dude, I really appreciate you sitting down and taking the time to talk with me, even though it took me forever to get to.
Yeah, you're all good, man, dude. The time zones, they get the best of us.
They do. That is the shitty part about, getting out and splitting, is everyone's in a different time zone now. Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time out to tell us about your story.
I'm very thankful that you had me on, dude. I'm excited to see, where this goes for you. And obviously at the end of the day, like, outside of all this too, like, I'm always open for a phone call. You're always open for a phone call. And
yes, sir.
I'm really excited to see Skeeter's Garage and your new Lima Charlie podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that, dude. I'm excited to see all the other guests you get to have, and I hope nothing but the best for all this. And if you have any vets that are struggling, send them my way. And if I got 100%. Vets that I know that you can absolutely help out and help them get into the avenue of maybe even starting their own podcast or starting, their own channel, like, I'll be sending them your way, because I think that, this is something that we could all help grow together.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, I really appreciate you coming on and being a part of hopefully building a community here too.
Yeah.
And that's really what I want to do.
I think you're doing a great job at it already. So
thanks, brother.
I think it's awesome. So like I said, I really do appreciate it again.
Yeah, no problem, dude. And we'll keep in touch, and maybe we'll bring you back here in a little bit, and we'll see how it goes. I'm just going to keep going, and I got a few more veterans and some active duty on the list. Hopefully one of them is going to be feeling good enough. What's up?
I said active duty BDD claim.
Yes, sir.
Easiest thing in the world. They need to call me if they're still active. I can.
Yeah. Anybody that I know that's still in, I'll send them your way.
Absolutely. And then let's talk about planning on having you over here in September, and maybe you do one of your podcasts from the event there.
That would be pretty sweet.
Be able to get to show the community as a whole at just one event, one weekend, like how crazy that is and how many people come out. And I think that'd be a awesome thing for you.
I'd love to do that. I'm all in. I would love to.
Absolutely.
That would be really cool to do.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's figure out something soon. But like I said, appreciate it again.
All right, brother. Well, we're going to peace out for now. And everyone, thank you for watching. And we'll catch you on the next one. Okay, love you. Bye.